is it. Three spots, 7 teams, and a whole lot of stage playoff scenarios.
Are you kidding me?
The top-ranked London Spitfire's first test. Can they stop the surging Houston Outlaws and crush their playoff dreams?
Houston Outlaws have a chance to get the upset.
And does it get any easier?
The match I know everyone drove in for.
Who will have the edge when London takes on New York in what could be a battle for the playoffs' top seed?
They know they're the top dogs in this league.
Plus, the LA Valiant look to keep their hopes alive against a Seoul Dynasty team that has no margin for error.
We'll see how on they are. They're going to have some tough competition.
And for Boston, you're telling me there's a chance.
This Boston team are the real deal
as they face Philly and Houston. The Stage 1 playoffs are here. This is Watchpoint.
Welcome to MLG's Watchpoint, everybody. I'm Chris Bucket, joined at the desk. We got Monty, Doa, and Mr. X back in the building.
What an exciting time to be alive, Chris Bucket. We have stage playoffs. We're just laughing deliriously right now.
Pretty much. I mean, it's the end of the stage. What else do you expect? A lot of Korean teams looking like they're going to be the top 3, maybe.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Stage 1 playoffs. I think it's going to produce some pretty epic matches.
Officially 20% of the way done here with our Stage 1 or Season 1. But we're coming to the end of Stage 1. And as we preview Week 5, we have to look forward to the most important part here of Week 5, and that's the upcoming playoffs.
As the Overwatch League enters the final week of Stage 1, it's time to get you set up for the stage playoffs. First, here's how it all works. The Overwatch regular season is broken into 4 5-week stages. At the conclusion of each individual stage, there is a stage playoff, pitting the top 3 teams in the standings against each other. For teams with the same record, the tiebreakers are cumulative map differential, followed by head-to-head map differential, then head-to-head record. Following match play on the last Saturday of each stage, the second and third place finishers will face off for a chance to face the #1 team later that night for the crown of Stage 1 champion. So what's at stake other than the bragging rights? Try $100,000 to the winning team and $25,000 to the runner-up. Going into the final week, the following teams have been eliminated from stage playoff contention. That leaves 7 teams vying for the 3 spots. For the top 2 seeds, New York XL and London, if they win their first match, they are in. For the 3rd-seeded Seoul Dynasty, win both of their matches and they stamp a ticket to the playoffs. But here's where things get tricky. If Seoul drops both of their matches, that opens the door for 4 teams chasing them. And with a middling map differential of only +11, there is a real possibility they miss the playoffs. The top-seeded Spitfire play the Outlaws Thursday. If they drop that match, a loss Saturday versus the #2 seed NYXL means they can fall out. If the New York XL drop their match versus the Mayhem, then lose to the Spitfire, that also clears a path for the Outlaws, Uprising, Valiant, and Fusion if they can win out and have a better map differential. All in all, this adds up to over 43 million, yes, million possible outcomes for the Stage 1 playoffs. Confused yet? Good, us too. What we do know, however, is that it's going to be an exciting finish to the first stage of the Overwatch League.
Here are the current standings heading into the final week of the stage. Spitfire and the New York XL are separated by just 1 map in differential, with the Seoul Dynasty right behind them. But that group of teams behind Seoul has a chance, and it starts with the Valiant facing off against the Dynasty on Wednesday. Los Angeles will look to turn things around after a bad loss to Boston, while the Dynasty hope to fight off one of the teams that are trying to take their playoff spot. Monty, what vulnerabilities could each team look to exploit?
I think it's highly unlikely that the Valiant win this matchup, but perhaps we have seen from Seoul, Toby or Miro have been dying first a lot in a lot of these team fights. Toby's been dying with the Valkyrie up. That is potentially something that could be exploitable here, and certainly something that we saw as part of the downfall against the London Spitfire and the very, very narrow win against the Houston Outlaws last week.
Mr. X, what change could Seoul make to shore things up after a rough Week 4?
I'd like to see them bring Kuki back as the main tank. I mean, you mentioned Miro's struggles in the previous week, dying a lot early in fights. I think Kuki has been very consistent for Seoul Dynasty throughout Stage 1. I'd like to see him come back into the lineup.
And Kuki also brings a different level of shot calling. From talking to these guys, they definitely think of Kuki as the more passive or defensive tank who brings more into their comms, and Miro as the more aggressive, instinctive tank.
Joe, let's get to the DPS discussion here as we take a look at both the Valiant and the Seoul Dynasty. Who do you give to the edge to currently?
Well, I mean, I think you got to give it to Seoul Dynasty, if for nothing else than for the fact that Fleda's on that team. I mean, this guy is so diverse. He can play basically everything, and he's extremely good at everything he plays. You add into that, they have a couple good tracer options in Bunny and Munchkin, and they've even started using Wicked as a tracer on certain maps in some of the recent matches. So I think they've got a variety of good people to choose from, and then you just got Fleda, and that's probably all you need.
Well, I think the issue for Seoul potentially in this match is, can their tracer player play up to Soon's potential, right? Like, if they can play even with Soon, you like Fleda like way over whether it's Silk Thread or Agilities. But if Soon's dominating that matchup, whether it's Munchkin or Bunny in the lineup, then you start to worry if you're Seoul, because then that puts a lot of pressure on Fleda, and then you also have Silk Thread or Agilities who could go off.
And are we even going to have Silk Thread back this week? Remember, he was sick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions around the Valiant and whether they'll even be able to field Silk Thread and Unco, which could give them a boost.
I think it's safe to say they need Silk Thread back in the lineup. Sorry, Joe, to cut you off. We got to move this on. And speaking of moving on, we got to look at the Week 5 schedule here for the London Spitfire. They will be tested on Thursday. The Spitfire has to face off against the Houston Outlaws squad that is hungry to jump into that playoff mix. And then on Saturday, it's a clash with the current number 2 seed, the New York XL. The Spitfire are on fire right now, and they're coming off a 4-0 stomping of the Seoul Dynasty and surrendering 0 points to the Shanghai Dragons. But Houston has been rolling too. They've had 5 straight wins coming into the 5-map loss to the Seoul Dynasty. And Joe, we have to look here at the keys for Houston. How could they shake up the playoff run?
Well, I think the big one for Houston is just to get Linkser back. I mean, if you look at that match between them and Seoul Dynasty, I think if you have Linkser in there, you win that one. And I'm not taking anything away from Clockwork. I think he performed admirably in the matches that they brought him in for, but you just can't deny the playmaking that Linkser brings to this team, and that's the kind of X factor, that sort of extra little oomph you need if you want to make the playoffs.
I'm going to have to dump some cold water on this one. I think it's very unlikely that Houston takes a win over the London Spitfire this week. Last week, people will say, hey, look, they almost beat Seoul because even with Clockwork in the lineup instead of Linkser. But it really was a perfect storm of factors. It was coming off a loss. It was Houston's best maps. It was them losing to a similar style that was played by London previously. So I just don't see them taking this one at all.
I think Cristo back.
I'm killing
it's 5 minutes.
It's 3-1 to London, I think.
No faith in the Jake Rat from Monty, hating on the West. What's new? Matt, let's talk a little bit about London. On the recap show, you said this is the deepest, the strongest lineup. How can they use this lineup to their advantage?
I mean, they have so many pieces, whether it's, your tank line, right? I mean, you have Gesture and Fisher, 2 amazing, main tanks, Hulial and Fury, great off tanks. It's really the DPS core that I think, a lot of people kind of point at and say, like, that's the biggest strength with this team. It's just the combinations they put out there. It seems like Birdring is the one who's constantly in the lineup for this team. He has just a large hero pool. And then they sub in Prophet and Rascal and, Hureg on occasion. And those guys, they play so many of the off picks, right? Like we see Rascal with the Mei. Prophet was like #1 in terms of play with like Genji and Tracer at one point. So I think it's just they have so many different pieces they can throw at you. And then the fact that they can scrim internally now is huge, right? They can practice these strats internally against top competition, right? If their second team was in the league, they'd probably be in the top 4 looking for playoffs as well. So they just have such an advantage in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that they do have the ability, again, because of like especially Rascal, to bring out these really weird picks. And so the big question then is, can Houston adapt to the versatility that London can bring in with those crazy strats?
London's got the depth. We'll see what maps they choose to run which players. And speaking of the maps, Monty, you mentioned that last time Houston matched up against Seoul, the maps were in their favor. Who has the advantage coming into this matchup?
I think that as we look at the Spitfire, certainly Eichenwald has been a good map for the Houston Outlaws, but we're not seeing Junkertown. We're not going to be seeing Horizon Lunar Colony either. And these have been big maps for the Houston Outlaws. Also, in general, they've been very poor on rebound control. I don't have a lot of confidence in them, particularly going into Oasis. So I think this is going to tip slightly in the favor of the London Spitfire just by looking at these maps.
Definitely going to need Linkster to clip those wings. So after that battle against the Outlaws, the Spitfire have an even tougher test. They go up against the number 2 seeded New York Excel, and New York quietly went 2-0 in week 4. They were trailing London by just 1 map in differential entering the week, and the winner of this match could advance to the Stage 1 title match. So, Mr. X, who do you expect to carry New York Excel in this one?
With NYXL, we've talked so much about Jonak and Sabiel B. I think really it's going to come down to Meko and Libero. I think Libero has started to really kind of up his play over the last few weeks, and I really feel like we haven't seen the potential from him on this team yet. He can play a lot of the off heroes a lot like Rascal, right? But we just have not seen New York, use these strategies because, quite frankly, they've been winning their matches fairly convincingly, so they haven't had to use any of them yet. I think if they were to use these strategies, in a little bit of a curveball, I think it would be the game against London to secure potentially that #1 spot.
I do think Libero, to a certain degree, has benefited from Sabielby's performance by giving him a lot more space to perform well. But yes, I think he has stepped it up.
And he's been hurt by having less people to shoot because they're already dead. But Monty, let's keep the focus on the Tracers here as you look at London matching up against New York. How important is the Tracer in this meta, and who has the advantage when it comes to that role?
I think you have to look at this matchup and say this is definitively the best Tracer versus Tracer matchup of the season. Whether it's going to be Sabielby versus Birdring or Sabielby versus Prophet, we don't know exactly which roster they're going to run or how they're going to play the Tracer. But Sabielby has to come up big and shut down the enemy Tracer, as we've seen him do against Seoul previously, if New York wants to win this.
I think, even if Sabiel B does shut down Birdring, the scary part will be is you also have Prophet and Rascal there as well.
Absolutely.
So many people to shut down. Good luck. Yeah. We'll see if you can get the job done. Doa, let's talk about play styles. When you look at New York, you got yourself a pretty defensive team. When you look at this London Spitfire squad, they've shown us they can go on the attack. So who has the edge in this matchup stylistically?
I think it's hard to say. And honestly, I know this is going to be a very Doa thing to say right now, but I think it's going to come down to people like Jonak, right? New York Excel, where if you're going to be playing that defensive style, you want somebody who can really protect your back line against some of the crazy DPS we talked about, like Prophet, like Birdring, right? So Jonak might just be the defining factor. He and Arc might be able to kind of hold that back line a little bit more solidly, and that might give him the edge.
I definitely agree with Jonak. This is a team that plays around the Zenyatta to the maximum possible degree. That's where the damage boost from the Mercy is going at the start of nearly every fight, even during the fights themselves. Sabielby's job is to keep the enemy Tracer off their back line, so it will be the difference. If you say, on paper, who has the bigger support advantage, you definitely give that one to New York. I agree. And they've been playing beautifully around Jonak so far. There's no reason he can't carry this game.
Does that mean New York's going to win it all?
I think New York will win.
We'll get your prediction officially a little bit later.
We'll see.
All right, we talked about some of the biggest names, Houston, London, New York, but we can't forget about the Boston Uprising. They have been on a tear, and their 4-0 win over the Valiant in Week 4 leaves them in 5th place. They're ahead of the Fusion, who they get to play on Thursday, and just behind Houston, who they play on Saturday. Doa, this was known as a dive team early on. What changes have they made? How have they adapted?
Man, I gotta say, Boston has become my favorite team to watch over the course of the stage. They really have, because they did kind of start off with sort of that only dive kind of mentality, but they were really good at it. It was mostly Dream Casper at the time, but especially that guy has taken this team to the next level where he's playing so many different heroes right now. I mean, look at that screen, right? The Pharah, the Junkrat, the McCree, the Soldier. He brings a lot more to this team than just dive, and they've been able to take that diving core and turn it into this very adaptable squad, and they're able to change what they're doing and change what he's playing to adjust to what they're facing, and it's worked out extremely well.
Yeah, I agree, and not only have they done that, Dream Casper needed a star-level performance, I think, to take him and his team to the next level. At a certain point, you can be very good at teamwork like we've seen from the Boston Uprising, but you need somebody there to make the big plays, to push you over the finish line.
No doubt.
And that's what we saw for the first time, I feel, this week, particularly in that match against the Valiant, where he was astoundingly good on the Pharah and really made a huge difference in that matchup.
Not only that, he has some great counter picks after seeing what the opponents are going to bring at him. So, Matt, let's talk specifically about this Boston versus Houston matchup that's going down on Saturday. It could have a major impact on the playoff run. What are you looking forward to in that match?
I think a great matchup in that match is going to be Gamsu against Muma. I think you look at the main tanks for both of these teams, two of the absolute best in the league. Muma's been on a tear. We showed some stats, on the recap show. He's like in the top 10 in every category, in the previous week. For overall in the season, he's up there as well. I think he's been a big reason why Houston's had success. And the same thing for Gamsu on the other side. Who's creating all this space for Striker and Dream Casper? It's Gamsu.
Well, before they face Houston on Saturday, the Uprising faced the Philadelphia Fusion on Thursday. And ahead of their Week 5 clash, the Fusion and Uprising players watched their NFL teams battle for the football's biggest prize, the Lombardi Trophy.
Hi, my name is Joe Gramano, or as most people know me, Joe Meister. I play for the Philly Fusion. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so the New England Patriots are going to be playing the Philadelphia Eagles today. As the Philly team, we decided to invite the Boston team over to watch the game together. We've decided to invite a couple of the other Overwatch League teams over. We even have some of the casters coming over. Yeah, it's kind of cool having all the people we work with come over, spend some time with us away from, video games, getting to know each other on a more personal level. I'm gonna have a lot of fun, so hopefully everyone else will too.
Yo, big shout out to the Philadelphia Fusion having us over.
Yeah, we went. These guys bailed.
We didn't go.
It was a great party.
We like tacos.
I was
And
too busy
football.
laying on my couch myself.
I was just a big nerd doing tabletop gaming all afternoon. I admit it, if the Packers aren't there.
That's a horrible
That's
excuse.
how it is.
We're just gonna ignore that. You said that. All right, now the stage playoffs are obviously
Has no love of
a
the
huge
game, just
deal.
the team.
And, as we
love the
talk about
team.
the stage playoffs, there's a bunch of other storylines to discuss other than the top 3 teams. So let's jump into that with our 6 stack today. The Philadelphia Fusion aren't out of the stage playoff chase, but they are a long shot due to their -1 map differential. Still, the Fusion are 5-3, but that negative differential shows you how inconsistent they've been. What can they do to find some consistency?
Well, this is going to sound weird, right? But I think they need to kind of go back a little bit to what they were doing before. We've seen them take Poco out of the lineup, bring in Hotba for a little bit more defensive play. Fraggy has dialed it back a little bit. They've become more conservative, and I think that's actually hurt them. And as weird as it is, the insane diving style that we saw before, that Poco was a big part of, I think may actually be what they need to give them that little extra push in the end of the season. If anything's going to get there, I think it's going to be the craziness that they showed before, not this sort of conservative, half-measured style that we're seeing now.
Moving it on, Shanghai is 0-8, but they're looking better. Before being blanked by London, the Dragons took 16 points versus Seoul, Philly, and New York, after taking just 7 points against lesser opponents in the early weeks. So, Mr. X, what improvements are we seeing from the Dragons?
Well, I think you're seeing them give a lot, more dedicated resources to Undead for him to be able to pop off as a DPS player. I think they realize that Dia will play well regardless whether, they give him all of that healing output. So they've given it to Undead. Dia can still do his thing, and Undead's played much better. I think the next thing that Shanghai needs to work on is their off-tank position. I think the off-tank position's definitely been their weakest spot throughout stage run thus far.
Would you put Shishu or MG?
I think from the matches we've seen that MG has played quite well.
I'd
I
sign
like
a
that
new
call.
player.
All right, let's keep this rolling here. Next up, we got the Florida Mayhem, and they had a league-low 6 players on their roster for Stage 1. Now they've added Zappis from the European Contenders Season 1 champions Giganti. And aside from their announcement tweet featuring Zappis' head awkwardly photoshopped on the skinny Zappe, let's talk about how you feel coming into this one. What do you think of the signing, Monty?
Well, first off, I think it's probably cheaper to Photoshop rather than airmail a jersey all the way to Finland to get it onto Zappis. But that aside, a lot of people will look at this and say, hey, Madison has actually been one of the more productive members on the Florida Mayhem. Why are they signing a player who played off-tank on Giganti to this roster? Well, first off, you have to know Zappis to know why this makes sense. From a personal level, I think he brings a lot of maturity. He's 28 years old, one of the older members of the team. Great in-game leadership, great out-of-game leadership. Plus, people forget, he used to play flex support on some of his old rosters. So maybe you move him back to that position instead. So he's got a lot of, I think his leadership as well as his versatility in terms of his possible role will help. But they are going to need to make some more signings.
Yeah, I think he'll either end up playing like the Zenyatta for this team, and you'll see Zupe play the Ana, in terms, or maybe Moira like as we move on, into stage 2, or he potentially could, they'll learn how to play the main tank position.
All right, let's keep this rolling. We're halfway through the stack. The San Francisco Shock are 3-5, and they're currently sitting in 8th place after their win over Florida. Dak said this will be a whole new team when the new patch comes out for play in Stage 2. Now, Sinatra and Super are also going to be in the lineups once they turn 18, so the end of Stage 2 and the start of Stage 3. So, Doa, could this team gain momentum as the season progresses?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, think about Super and Sinatra coming in. That's going to upgrade this team massively in those roles, right? And when you add into the fact that they're not going to have to worry about the Mercy meta as much, they can move Dak back onto the Lucio a little bit more. I think this team does have a lot to look forward to. I think he's right.
All right, by the way, for the record, Super cried after the Eagles won. He was so happy. It was cute. Can't wait to get him on the main stage. We got 2 more left. The Dallas Fuel dropped 2 more matches in Week 4, though they did take a map from the New York Excel. But they are still just 1-7. Monty, who could the Fuel sign during this free agency period to help them turn things around?
Well, I think the biggest need for the Dallas Fuel, people will say they don't need any more DPS players. That is wrong. That is very wrong. They do need a projectile DPS player. They have to be able to adjust and start playing the dive with FX Tracer. And I think one of the best signings that any team could make, but definitely suits the Dallas Fuel, is a Korean player named Architect from the team X6, was one of the best teams in Apex in the last season. He turns 18 years old on February 26th. He will be a hot item no matter who gets him. He will be signed by somebody. I think the Dallas Fuel should be the big bidder.
All right, big prospect there for Dallas Fuel. The last question here, we have the Houston Outlaws probably have their best chance to break into the playoffs when they go up against a big matchup here. Now, Mr. X, looking at their Week 5, what could they do to push themselves forward and break into the top 3? You're going up against some juggernauts.
I mean, you're going to have to see them play just like they did against Seoul when they go up against London. I think you bring Linkser back into the lineup. That's how this team can get over the top. When you bring him in to this Houston Outlaw lineup, you're able to run that Widowmaker at a high level. He can play Tracer, obviously, Genji as well. He just gives them so much versatility.
All right, Linkser is the answer. I love that call. Well, later in the show, our analyst will tell you if they think Houston can break into the Stage 1 playoffs. Monty said no. But how do all of the players on these contending teams feel about their Stage 1 playoff chances? Well, let's let them tell you all about it.
Let's make some noise, ladies and gentlemen. Big it up, Blizzard Arena. Blown out of the sky. Jake! Huge tire from him. Now there it is. That's the big play.
Stage 1 playoffs for us. We'd love to win it. We'd love to get first place.
처음부터 시작이 좋아야 끝이 좋기 때문에
생각을 하기 때문에 정말 중요하다고 생각해요.
센 팀이 모여서 하는 거니까 그만큼 기대가 되고 빨리 하고 싶은 그런 마음.
돈이 많이 걸려.
Clean sweep. London has been out of this world.
저는 개인적으로 좀 휴스턴을 만나기가 싫고요. 좀 너무 저희 입장에서 좀 까다로운 팀인 것 같아요.
저도 약간 휴스턴이 약간 좀 무섭긴 하네요. 저희는 좀 공격적인데 우리가 더 잘해. 우리가 더 잘하긴 하는데 좀 힘들 것 같아요.
Nexal, for sure.
They're actually the best team. They have the best teamwork. They have the best coordination with their tanks. They have the best backline.
They have the most flexibility, too.
Most flexibility. They have the best Tracer player in the game.
Sabi will be coming alive, man.
SPV is a god.
In the playoffs, when we play multiple matches in one day, it's very important that everyone stays at the same energy level because you don't want everyone to be too high or too low and waste all the energy mid first matches. 1등 해야지. 피곤한데 한 경기만 해야지.
하루에 2경기 하는 거는 겪어본 적은 없지만 그래도 좀 정신력으로 버텨야 될 것 같아요.
It just doesn't seem like Seoul's touchable here.
We're used to scrimming 6 hours every day, so I mean, stamina's not really a problem for us.
We're a team full of grinders. When other teams crumble, we're going to stay strong, we're going to stay together, and we're going to stay tight.
Oh, it's just a dominant victory here from the Houston Outlaws.
방심하지 않고 항상 하던 대로 분석하고 해서 플레이오프 꼭 갈 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 그냥 지금 흐른 대로 그냥 가면 그래도 무난하게 이기지 않을까 생각은 하고 있어요.
이번 스테이지 1등은 저희가 하겠습니다.
Here are the current matchups and schedule for the Stage 1 playoffs next Saturday night. If nothing changes in the standings this week, Seoul would have to face New York, and the winner of that match would go on to face off against London. Now, Saturday's final match for Stage 1 is going to be happening at the end of the night. We're going to see the Mayhem versus the Fusion before all the playoff action kicks off. Welcome, guys, to the Overwatch League support group as we enter the final week of Stage 1. We know that some of you are fighting with some internal issues and are fighting for some big playoff spots. We want to help you with these issues, and once again, I'd like to ask, who'd like to speak first?
I will. I'm the Philadelphia Fusion, and representing the city of brotherly love, I feel like we don't get enough love. We have a great team, with Carpe and Shadowburn, and we're right in the playoff hunt, and nobody talks about us. They talk about Boston and the Valiant and NYXL, and we're the only team that is up there, and we don't get any love whatsoever. I mean, we invited all the talent over for a barbecue, for the big game, and just kind of shouting us out. But I mean, do they really love us? I don't know. We really just want to be loved.
At least your DPS gets attention, Philly. We're here for you. That was very brave. Thank you for sharing. Looks like we have a new face here in the room. Dynasty, anything you care to share?
No, I'm not sure why I'm here, actually. I'm top 3. Everything's fine with me. I don't know. My friends told me I should come, so I didn't have anything better to do. I'm here.
Everybody has problems. It's okay to.
No, we're fine. We're actually going to win the whole stage, so I don't know what you guys are talking about.
All right, Dynasty, that's okay for now. Houston, Outlaws, anything you guys like to share?
I know last time I talked and I said, why aren't we just playing Linkser? That's what I want to do. And you know what? I did it. I was so excited. I went on a big win streak. Nobody else has won those 16 maps in a row, 4 straight 4-0 victories. But people are still telling me, Houston, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. You have to beat a top team. And then I lost my Linkser again. I hope we'll have him back. I can't do it. I couldn't climb that mountain. I've got another chance, though, and I really believe in myself this time. This week, I'm going to go to the playoffs.
You'll get your Finn back. We believe in you, Houston. Well, Dynasty, I want to remind you, this is a very safe space, and obviously you're harboring some negative energy, so why don't you just tell us what's bothering you deep down?
Well, I mean, you guys are really brave, and listening to what you're saying has kind of made me think about some stuff, and, I think we're just a little bit confused. I mean, Miro or Kuki? Miro's a veteran, but Kuki's he's pretty good. But I don't know what to put in. And I really thought Guido was gonna work. I thought he was gonna be the next Jaehong, but he's not. Jaehong is Jaehong, and so we need Jaehong to be the Jaehong, and not Guido to be the Jaehong. Oh, there's only one Jaehong, and I understand that now. But is it too late? Is it too late? I don't.
It's not too late, Soul. It's never too late to put your Jaehong back in. I learned that about Linkser.
Thank you.
We're proud of you, Dynasty. Thanks for sharing. It's never too late to get better, and we're all here for you, and we're happy that we could be a help in your growth. That's all we have time for today. Feel better, guys. The San Francisco Shock kick off their Week 5 against the Los Angeles Gladiators on Wednesday. And as we mentioned earlier, they're looking to build off a major win against the Florida Mayhem that had the Shock fans buzzing.
All right, no big speech today. You guys know what to do.
We're gonna pop off.
We're gonna
play some Overwatch League.
Let's get it. 3, 2, 1, shut up!
Okay, no, that's good.
Guys, good luck. Good luck. Big W, big W, big W.
We got to open this one up with a banger. It's the San Francisco Shock versus the Florida Mayhem, and it's time to introduce the team from the Bay. Get up for the Shock.
On a very aggressive dive, going all the way back, trying to get Zebo's eye, and he gets absolutely sniped by Nevix and Diva. Where the peels? Nevix is running. Been a great master game for Sleepy, that's for sure. So he's going to get off and onto a more comfortable hero. Baby Bang, meanwhile, hitting headshot.
Okay, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show, predictions.
Is this our favorite part?
It's my favorite part.
You're the one who's always
last.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's because I like being the underdog. I like the challenge.
I think it's because you're a masochist.
Losing is fun for some. All right, as we discussed, there's a lot on the line, a lot at stake in this week's matchup. So let's get right into it and see our picks for the week. Starting on Wednesday, everyone has the Dallas Fuel over the Shanghai Dragons, the Shock over the Gladiators, and Dynasty taking out the Valiant. But on Thursday, there's really no fun here either, as everyone picks the same. Boston over Philly, New York over Florida, and London over Houston. Before we go, you've all said that you think New York, Seoul, and London will not be surpassed and be the team competing in the Stage 1 title matchup.
Yep.
So let's get it official right now, starting with you, Mr. X. Who walks away with the crown?
I thought long and hard about this. It may shock you. I'm going to go with NYXL. I still think that they are the best team in the league. I said that London has the best roster top to bottom. I think they may have just kind of started to put these pieces together a little bit too late. I think New York edges them out.
You sound super confident.
Yeah, well, you're wrong. I think it's going to be the London Spitfire. I believe it was day 1 of the preseason. I predicted these guys to win, or at least to be the favorites of the entire Overwatch League. I think that still holds true, and I think they're going to prove it with a Stage 1 victory.
I actually think that both of you are right in different ways, but for this particular stage, I will pick New York XL. If we're talking about the entirety of the league, I do think London will get it together. But I think in this meta right now, with how important Mercy is, with how well Jonak is playing, this should be the point that really pushes them over the top. Also, New York can do a lot of strategies with just their basic roster. They don't have to swap players in and out, and they've been incredibly flexible and know how to communicate as a unit with just their players that they can start. So I'm really liking New York for the Stage 1 playoffs, but I do think London is still the favorite for the overall league.
Houston slips in and wins it all, and that's going to do it for Watchpoint. Tune in to Week 5 and see for yourself as the Stage 1 Overwatch League Championship kicks off Saturday night. It all is going to start off the Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on OverwatchLeague.com, twitch.tv/Overwatch League, and, of course, the Overwatch League app. Thanks for watching.